Committee on Budget please come to order? It's 10:11 a.m. I'd like to welcome here in the chambers committee members Kia'aina and Cordero, as well as council members Okimoto and Talba. We don't have any council members participating remotely as of right now. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways, remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. As English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I'll then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called upon. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I'll identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Some friendly reminders and tips: please video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time at which you're called to testify. And when this timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I'll proceed to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. For those council members participating from outside of the council chamber, which we have none, I therefore don't need this sentence. So written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described in the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones. At this time, I would like to ask for any testimony to be offered on agenda item number 1. This is the informational briefing, Executive Capital and Operating Budget Review for the Department of Human Resources, Department of Enterprise Services, Department of Design and Construction, Department of Environmental Services, and the Department of Customer Services. Is there anyone here in the chamber who would like to testify on any of these items? Okay, seeing none. Clerks, is there anyone standing by remotely to testify on any of these items?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none, we'll now proceed to the Department of Human Resources, whose presentation can be found online as Departmental Communication 200. Okay, please proceed.
Good morning, Budget Chair Dos Santos Tam, Council Vice Chair Wire, members of the Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2026 budget for the Department of Human Resources. I'm Nola Miyasaki, Director of the Department of Human Resources. I'd like to introduce my leadership team. With me here today, Assistant Director Bugs Baguio, our Division Chiefs Jennifer Wu, Employment and Personnel Services, Sarah Hirakami, Labor Relations and Training, Jerry Nichols, Workers' Compensation and Industrial Safety, Renee Cho, Employer Resource Programs, and Denise Miyahara, Classification and Pay. So the Department of Human Resources is charged with managing the city's talent based on the merit principle and generally accepted methods of classification and employment. Including in that mandate is the management of the conduct, movement, and separation of public officers and employees. The department's objectives are to attract, hire, and retain the best qualified civil servants to provide competent and impartial service to the public, and to provide our employees with opportunities for training and promotion so they will all have rewarding career paths within the city. Next slide, okay. So DHR operates 100% on general funds. Our proposed budget for fiscal year 26 is $8,662,835, reflecting a 3.4 increase from fiscal year 25. We are requesting $7,927,626 in salaries, representing an increase of 1.7%. For current expenses, we're requesting a total of $730,209, representing an increase of 25.8%. The department's operating budget, as you can see, is comprised primarily of salaries, which make up 90% of our total budget. The remaining 8% of operating expenses, the main costs of this for the year include larger projected expense for arbitration due to our collective bargaining this year, in addition to annual costs of examinations, recruitment, and training expenses. Salary increases for fiscal year 26 are due to 3 new civil service positions for outreach and talent acquisition, which replace federal-funded, FRF-funded contract positions, which we have developed and are critical to continuing the momentum and work of our hiring initiative. 1 new civil service position as part of a retention initiative to provide training and development opportunities for city employees and support for our Honolulu online training platform. Reallocations and promotions for existing staff, and these costs are offset by a net reduction in contract positions. As of February 1, 2025, DHR had 7 vacancies. 6 of the vacancies will be filled by July 1, 2025. 1 vacancy is planned to be filled in fiscal year 26. No vacant positions may be abolished. The vacancy to be filled in 2026 is due to return rights of a employee who's on probation and another promotion. So just to explain a little bit further on the current vacancies, a year ago we had 10 vacancies at this time. Over the following 12-month period, the department created 3 new positions, had additional vacancies due to retirement, separations, and promotions. So in total, we actually had 26 vacancies come up over the last 12 months. We filled 19 of them, and the result is we have 7 net vacancies with a net gain of 19 new hires. 6 of the 7 current vacancies have only been open since December 31 because of retirements and other separations. Since the snapshot about a month ago on February 1, these vacancies have either been filled or are in the process of recruitment, except for the 1 position with return rights. The current allocation for overtime is $37,000, primarily for the purposes of staffing large-scale exams such as the trades apprentice and EMT exams scheduled for fiscal year 26. In addition, after our hiring events such as same-day hiring, mayor's town halls, career fairs, and other hiring initiatives require staff overtime. This is an increase of 0% from the prior fiscal year. Finally, DHR has requested CIP funding to update our floor layout and data electronic capabilities in order to accommodate additional workspaces for new staff and to consolidate some of our staff working in other remote locations in the city. We have taken all of our documents digital in order to clear room for new staff positions. However, the space is just not able to accommodate our needs. It's the Fosse in the Fosse Municipal Building. So $400,000 is requested in fiscal 26 for design. That includes the budget presentation for 2026 for DHR, and I'm happy to take any questions from council.
Members, any questions for the Director of Human Resources? Councilmember Wire. Oh, and before you start, welcome Councilmember Wire here to the chambers, as well as Chair Waters and Budget Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you, Chair. And Mahalo Director, Deputy Director, for being here. I think it goes without saying we're grateful for all your work and appreciate all the effort and time you're putting in, so thank you for that. I just had one question to start off. I know the engineer adjustment differential is already in place. We've been talking about the work that's going into I think it was the planners, inspectors, and plans examiners do you have any updates or thoughts on the timeline for that and how, I'm sure some may be easier than others, but if you could just kind of give us the HR's perspective and work on it today.
We just approved a shortage differential for the inspectors, for the planners, I'm sorry, for the planners. For the planners that are specific to DPP that have to do with the kind of work that they do in DPP. So that was just approved last week, and I
Awesome.
believe will be effective sometime this week or next week. The construction inspectors have been on shortage for the past year or so. That has already gone, and these classes are shared with some of the other departments. They're statewide classes. So when we give the construction inspectors shortage, I think it also impacted some of the other departments, the Board of Water Supply. So all the same people in the class, the same employees in the class will get the shortage. There are a couple positions that were not part of the shortage because they aren't considered labor shortage. There's no recruitment difficulty. So same with examiners. There are other recruitment incentives that we would like the department to use, and we've been working with them, especially on the examiners. There's reallocations and promotions that are available to them that we would like them to make sure they implement. But you know, we know there are issues that they want to address, and we're actively working with them on that.
Okay, because I'm curious if there's not a shortage, I mean, does it follow that the main reason for challenge for filling those positions would just be the pay?
For the building plan examiners,
Yeah.
there are no vacancies. And when they do run a recruitment, they start them at the one or the entry level, and they're able to fill. The examiners have a progressional reallocation plan. It's a series. So in a couple of years, they should be going from building plan examiner 1 to 4.
Okay.
1 to 3, so which gives them an opportunity every year to get promoted. And then when they go to 4, that's the journey level, I believe. And then so those are all promotional opportunities. Now, I think if the retention is a problem, I mean, that's something that it's a different issue, and it's not really addressed by shortage. But you know, so we have had a couple of meetings with DPP, and we need to kind of look into that a little bit more. So we were trying to, you know, work on the low-hanging fruit initially with them, and I think there are some small reorgs that they've been working on that would also alleviate that are somewhat tied to operations and capacity.
Okay. Am I remembering correctly that our planner increase followed the states, that they went first? Is that what happened?
I believe yes, that's true.
Okay, and I'll just end with better understanding this, because I know a lot of our discussion is around collective bargaining and you know, just all the counties in the state working together. So I'm just curious if we're restricted on that side, or why are we restricted on that side if the state seems to move ahead without us, you know, at the same time?
We usually like to follow the state so we can be competitive, and we just implemented our own shortage policy. So for the past number of years, we haven't had our own shortage policy, so we've been restricted, but we just passed our own shortage policy for the city, so we can consider classes that are in shortage that may be unique to us now. So we have a little bit more leeway, but the shortage policy is designed for labor shortage. So there has to be a demonstration that it's hard to fill the jobs, and that's why certain jobs that are historically vacant or on continuous recruitment and don't get applications, or if they get applications and people can't qualify for the jobs, those are what, you know, we use to demonstrate shortage. It's not necessarily higher pay, it's just we pay higher because of the shortage.
Okay, and then aside from adjusting the classification and that process that you're working on, outside of that, you have shortages. Are there other triggers that could be used?
Once employees, well, let me put it this way, we don't have a lot of leeway or flexibility on pay once employees are in their positions, because the wages are determined by collective bargaining. They're all on contract, and once everyone is on the pay schedule, there's either step movements or other collective bargaining increases that apply to each position, unless there are promotional opportunities, which is why we want to work on promotional opportunities, make sure their employees are trained and, have those opportunities available. And otherwise, we have more flexibility with recruitment incentives, and that's where we have started to, be more assertive, aggressive in trying to bring people on at rates which are commensurate with their experience and their qualification and their education.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I guess just quickly, so the recruitment incentives don't have to be triggered by an extenuating circumstance?
They just have to be, the departments have to do a certain amount of paperwork to get the recruitment incentive because it has to be still, available to all. It has to be fairly promoted and publicized. So there is some work, and the recruitment incentive does have to be tied to the individual, the qualifications of the applicants.
Okay, and then do retention incentives have to meet the same legal criteria as recruitment incentives?
We don't really have retention incentives because of collective bargaining at the certain levels. It's difficult because we are bound by equal pay for equal work and fair treatment to all employees in the same circumstances. So people may have movement by class, but it's usually determined at the collective bargaining table.
Okay, and then so just to wrap up the first question, because I know what we honed in, when we're looking at extenuating circumstances, the shortage is the only legal basis, or are there other factors that fall under that rule or that standard?
Just to be clear, so shortage applies to a whole class. So we have to apply, certain, if we were going to provide incentives like shortage differentials or certain differentials, as we did for engineers, it has to apply to the whole class equally.
Are there other whole class extenuating circumstances, or is shortage the only one? If that makes sense. And again, I just talking through this, and I'll wrap up so folks can ask questions, just trying to place where in the legal analysis all these different methods. Sometimes
a particular class of employee may be that has changed. The duties are, the class was originally, things have changed, the duties and the work has changed, become more complex, and sometimes that that warrants reclassification. And so that's when we might look at a whole class of people and look at the work they're doing.
No, I hear you on that, but I mean the shortage differential isn't a reclassification, right?
No, that's just based on labor shortage and not being able to fill positions, critical to fill positions.
So like under the law and the standards that apply to the collective bargaining and employment law, are there other like factors that could be utilized, or is shortage pretty much the only allowable one?
I can't think of any really. I mean, we don't have the flexibility to provide retention incentives on either individual basis or department-only basis. I mean, we typically don't, don't have that.
So sorry to belabor this. Where does the shortage, where does the legal authority for the shortage differential come from? Is that from the collective bargaining agreement, or case law, or HRS?
The shortage differentials as an internal policy, it's a director's policy, it's part of the city, and it's pursuant to some underlying statutory rule that allows us to provide incentives. It's really a recruitment incentive. It allows the directors to provide recruitment incentives for critical to fill, hard to fill labor shortage jobs. So then we create the shortage policy, but we do have to apply it to the entire class.
Okay, and all in there, maybe that'll be part of our follow-up question, was maybe just if we could get the statutory framework, maybe the regulatory
we
framework.
can get that to you, absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Chair.
All right, Councilmember Kiana. I'd also like to welcome Councilmember Tuola to the chambers.
Thank you. Good to see you, Director. I know that you and I have previously discussed this, but it's still weighing on my mind. And that has to do with the welfare of federal employees here in Hawaii who are either losing or have lost their jobs. Of course, they're fitting in two categories. Those who are able to get paid through September and those who are just cut off. And I do know that there is a lot of trauma, emotional trauma going on because they're in shock. And they might not be as forthcoming when you're announcing job solicitations. And I just want to make sure that you're doing everything in your willpower, apart from the fairs, the job fairs, to be a little more strategic. And by that, I mean, even if it's an unfavorable climate, to still maybe work with the relevant agencies that are going to have the biggest losses. They have to have a human resources department, perhaps, for example, to get a better idea of the skill sets that are being cut off, because you are able to work with the various agencies in the city to determine how they align. I also encourage that you work with the congressional delegation because they might have an idea, but because I think you are representing the city, you on your own can have your own lines of communications with these agencies, yeah? And of course, work in tandem with your colleagues. Those of you who may not be aware, my former chief of staff, Jocelyn Doan, was let go, and she was the HUD field office director. And she's in mid-40s, and I thought that that was going to be her forever job, and I was so proud of her. And there are a lot of high-level people who have been let go. She was on the probation period. We are endeavoring to look for her landing spot, so I'm throwing it out there. If anybody knows of a job for someone who, with her skill sets, she is available. And she's not going to appreciate me saying this, but I'm like her big sister, so I'm going to fight for her. I am going to be putting in the budget identified agencies to have a federal grants planner despite the environment, because the fact is there's a lot of money to be had and we need to be more competitive. I'm just going to say the 8 agencies because the reason I'm saying this, let me just tell you, it's going to be highly paid, and a lot of these employees would be eligible. This would be first at the Honolulu Emergency Services Department, Department of Design and Construction, Department of Facility Maintenance, Department of Transportation Services, Department of Environmental Services, Department of Community Services, and the Department of Housing and Land Management. Of course, it needs to be successful in going through the budget, but it is a strategy that I worked in concert with the Managing Director's Office and the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services. And should we be successful, then I just think that that would be a separate tier, because a lot of these people have the skill set, and I want to help the city. So I think that would be a good alignment. What are your thoughts about what I've just laid out?
Councilmember Kiana, thank you for those comments. Absolutely, we are, very open and would like to figure out how to specifically be more strategically targeting individuals who may have been displaced from their job. Right now, we're really just fielding inquiries. We did rehire one of our own who was on probation on a federal promotion job. And so there are some opportunities that are just coming up in and of themselves. I have had conversations with a couple of the directors who believe that in the future that some of the funding will not be available. So there is a balance between the leadership who really would like to retain their employees, and I think their first preference is to find available city money to fund, at least in the short term, continuation of the positions. And but as far as basically matchmaking or placing, that's absolutely what we would like to do. We've done this matchmaking approach with Hawaiian Airlines employees, and I think it works well. I think what we're trying to figure out is how to find the workers who have been displaced without being very disruptive and undiplomatic. So that's one of the things we've opened a couple. We're going to a number of job fairs. We just don't know exactly how to target them more specifically.
I agree. I think just as another recommendation, and by the way, the reason I care about human resources, one of my first paying jobs out of college was in the U.S. Senate Placement Office. And what I did, I wasn't, you guys, I was paid less than $20,000. And I worked there for well over a year, and I helped place people not just in the U.S. Senate, but throughout Washington, D.C. And I gained a skill set of looking at various tiers and their backgrounds, and what I did was try to match them. And if we didn't have job availability on Capitol Hill, I still would try to help them in general. But I would say this, that because specific city agencies are having a hard time with specific positions that are highly skilled, like engineers, for example, I think what you could do is work in tandem with them to identify those types of positions that would probably be suitable for federal employees. I do know a lot of people from Fish and Wildlife Service and National Park Service are losing their jobs, and Parks and Recreation, for example, has a lot of openings, and so that's how you do it, I think. But the agencies also have to probably help you in identification of those. So anyway, just let me know how I can help.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Councilmember Okimoto, and then Tolba.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Director Miyazaki.
Good morning.
I first of all want to thank you and really give you props. I was really pleased to see what you've done with the vacancies. I know that's not something we hear very often. So thank you and kudos to you and your department for doing that. Maybe you can tell us the hints that you use so we can share that wealth. I did want to ask a couple of questions. Knowing that you've addressed the vacancies, I was wondering what the contracted FTEs were. I noticed that, and it's in the main, it's in your administrative, I'm sorry, it's in the big main summary, but on the employment and personal services, you did have that currently you have 5, last year was 3, or 2 years ago was 3, and then you're requesting it to go up 4 to 9. What are those positions used for? Is that what's, since you're filling these vacancies, I'm wondering what the need for these positions would be.
Those are budgeted contracts, and so they're used for a variety of different kinds of positions. So a couple of the contract positions that we roll over every year are to pay for exam monitors. So for example, when we do a large-scale exam at the Blaisdell and we have, 1,500 applicants for HPD that are all doing, they're all-day Saturday, two phases, morning and afternoon, we need at least 20 monitors. And so my staff, some of them that are on the exams team will work the exam and they'll run it, but we also need to hire other people. And so we typically will have a certain amount, it's almost like summer fun, but we have a certain crew that will come in and agree to work for us for that one Saturday, and usually they have to come in before to prep. And then, so if we have 2 big exams, that's how we use them. So the number tends to kind of fluctuate up and down. So that's one area. There, another area, so when in 2022, when I got on board at DHR, we were kind of receiving the FRF funding, if you recall. And so because the mayor, really wanted to expedite, be more efficient, do process engineering, we wanted to really go faster. But my exams team, my recruitment exams team was running like 25 or 30% vacancy. We had a lot of retirements. So I knew that we needed capacity. And even when you bring young people on at DHR, when they have to learn the different kinds of classes and the different PDs to really screen, we screen like about 15,000 applications every year, and I only have 8 screeners. So to get them up to speed, we were very fortunate to find some of our retirees from the city and the state and judiciary to help us. And they came back to work part-time, and some of our former employees who are maybe at the state, they all work part-time. So we had a couple of equivalent FTE contractors that were funded by the FRF. So once I've brought my staff back up to capacity and I filled them, they're 100% except for maybe 1 or 2 vacancies they might, be left at any particular time. They're able to handle most of the volume. We have kept a couple FTEs equivalent that help us train, and the staff that are young, they're able to call and get advice from these longtime, HR people. So that's where those contracts are. Another area of contract funding from FRF that we got was for this outreach team. When I first got here, the mayor's office and the council all suggested that we have an outreach arm. And right now, the existing 3-person recruitment staff, they do a lot of support with departments and advice and kind of helping them understand about the jobs and the recruitment above minimum requests and the priority placements. They do more internal cross-city functions. They would do an average of 2 big job fairs a year, and then they would put weekly ads in the Sunday paper. So when I stood up this FRF team to try to develop the concept of really outreach and talent acquisition like most companies do outside, I stood up a 4-person team with 1 social media person. And so those have been all FRF funded until September of this year. And then I had to use, I wanted to keep them. They've done a phenomenal job in terms of the same-day hiring, helping, do the recruitments. They've done about 100 outreach events over the last year and 2 months. And those are all things establishing relationships with community colleges and UH. So those positions are going to move. Those are the 3 civil service positions that I requested. And 1 will continue to be a budgeted contract. So that's where the net, decrease.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you're saying that even though it shows a total of 9 FTEs, it could be a combination of part-time.
Yes.
And are these, so you listed a variety of different types of responsibilities. Are these people doing different types of jobs, or you have specific half-time people doing specific things, or are they overlapping?
Well, the exam monitors really just work
for those fairs. So they just come on per project? Is that what those?
And then for the large scale
fairs.
exams.
Okay.
And just that those, but because there's so many of them, they add up to like say 1 FTE. They each work 8 or 12 hours twice a year or something like that.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And I was going to put a plug in, but I was also curious to know what you're doing to continue and exploring different technology. I know we have a new DIT director. What kinds of things are you trying to bring into your department to expedite the hiring and recruitment process?
Yeah, technology is a critical part of what we do, and we have. There is technology. I won't say we're behind or anything, but we just want to be on the cutting edge right now. I mean, we have a robust HRIM. We're just taking all the departments to Time I, the electronic timesheets, and that will take a couple years, believe it or not, to get everybody on Time I. So I don't know what the current status is of that, but that's part of our human resources system, which is really very, very good. We have an electronic online training program, which a lot of the departments would like to start to use for their individual certification, and that's where I've requested the additional training program, because a lot of these platforms really require administrative support for the departments, and also to make sure that we're fully using the features. We have a platform for the recruitment, NeoGov. What we've been working on for the last year or so is to try to integrate all of our systems so that the data can be more easily obtained and pulled together. So right now, when I pull together and I give reports to the mayor or to council on aggregate numbers of hiring and how long it's taking us and all that, sometimes my staff and we end up manually pulling those numbers together, and it's time consuming. So we would like to be able to. I know that the DIT is working on it with my ERP chief, where they're working, and also the mayor's data officer. We're trying to work on how to integrate data into various reports that can be done more easily. Separately, this year I'm really on a very intensive search for using AI in some of our processes, because I believe that in terms of examinations and classifications, position descriptions, not only will it help us be more efficient, but it will help the departments put up documents that are better, easier for them.
No, it's really great to hear. And I was able to meet with our data processing department head, I forget what her title is, I'm so sorry, but she has a lot of goals for what we can do and communicating between departments. And so I would really just encourage that. I know that you have this really enormous task to work with all of the departments. So any way that your department can move forward and modernizing or having the technology to have things done in a faster manner so that we can get these positions filled in each department. And I understand in talking to you, each department has their own unique types of needs. And so again, whatever we can do to help, I'm hopeful that with the new DIT, that can also be an asset, and then the data processing to streamline the information that seems to be, there's layers that hopefully can be, again, be presented in a more efficient way. But thank you for all that you're doing, and good job on the vacancies again. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Tolba.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Director. Kind of going off Councilmember Okimoto's question, like as far as expediting some of those positions. Now, how long does it take right now for the city to, the hiring process? How long does it take?
So
A couple questions, so.
a couple years ago, if you remember, we had A.R. Naveed, the Harvard Bloomberg fellow, and it was taking us 6 months to go from, the time a department actually starts the process for approval from budget to the time they actually make an offer was taking us 6 months. We're actually well under half of that. So it's 3 months, and a lot of that is not seen by the public. So it's a lot of back end, it's the budget process for approval, make sure you have funds. Then it's the HR process for posting the job and then getting the list out to the department. So those two functions have actually gone from, 50 or 60 days to 20 something days, so maybe 3 weeks each. Now I'd like them to get faster. And so and when we have this big hiring push for the snapshot, what I did was we tried to make some of those processes concurrent for the simpler jobs for when there wasn't a lot of changes to the job. And so we were able to, in the last 3 months, we hired, about just under 200 vacancies. So we're still working on those things, and the departments, they went from 70 to sometimes, 40 or 50 jobs, but we do have different kinds of hiring events where my staff, this recruitment team, the outreach team, they will do a lot of the calling, the scheduling, they'll handle the interview venues, and they'll help do the follow-up suitability. In those cases, we can actually, from the time we post a job until the time somebody is in a job, it's the average of 42 days, 6 weeks, which I think is lightning fast for us.
Yeah. But still, we could do a lot better, right? Because every year we get this conversation. When I think about like departments like, DDP, DPP, and DDC, that, that's real critical because we're losing a lot of money, as we heard yesterday in the hearings. The process, it could be faster. We could get these guys in, and of course, probably make the city some money in getting bodies. So how do you prioritize, hiring to make sure that critical spots get filled like first?
So council member, each department runs their own HR, and so we can push them. We've worked very closely with 6 of the big departments for the last year and a half, and they've really improved a lot. And it wasn't DPP, but we've started to work a little bit more closely with DP, but we do rely on the departments to file their own paperwork and do their own processes, make sure they're, on top of the hiring and the interviews and all of that. And we can try to facilitate things, but the staff in each department do not report to me. So to the extent that I don't control and manage them, we have to rely on the directors and the deputies to kind of try to facilitate and to try to get things done and prioritize hiring in a very quick manner.
Yeah, because I think HPD does that, right? So like,
HPD is fairly independent. They have their own, recruitment platform. So we do some of the shared civil service classes, but they're responsible they really do their own hiring for the majority of the police force.
Okay, so you think maybe the reason why not enough interest is because I think the general public thinks is the length. I don't want to work for the city because, take 10 years. Well, just the city in general.
Oh, the city.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, I think it's not a simple answer. Well, first of all, I think we have very low unemployment, and in Hawaii compared to the rest of the country, and there's a labor shortage. The people that are leaving Hawaii are often the people that work for that are in our workforce. So we were faced with a labor shortage, and then the shortage really hits us where in certain industries where we're competing with the state and the federal government and the private sector. So in the building industry where it's continued to be strong, anything related to construction is hard to fill. We're just a lot of competition, and that's why we have tried to do, the shortages and the salaries for the inspectors, the planners, the engineers, and those, we can see that there's a 40% vacancy across the city. We have to do something, so we prioritize those classes, and to the extent that the departments really have to also prioritize, because I think what happens is they get busy with operations, and sometimes the interview process kind of bogs them down. But if they, if you lose people and you can't replace the people and add more, you're always going to be in a break even or net negative hiring situation, and that's where the hiring priority, it falls on the administration for each department. But we definitely, we don't sit on things anymore. If they want recruitment incentives, we turn those around immediately. And we've tried to track certain areas where we know they need a rush.
No, I appreciate that because, every year, right, you come up, talk about how do you fix something that's broken. So, I really appreciate your efforts, and I'm hoping that by the time I leave this council, we would get it down to where, people are not only excited about, applying for the city and county, but get a job quickly. So thank you, Director.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Director.
Morning.
I think I need to rewatch every last 4 years hearings because you answer a lot of questions. I'm wondering if we should make a FAQ sheet because it's not complicated, but I'm sure it's repetitive to keep answering these questions. So I want to thank all my colleagues, all great questions thus far. The one that I just highlighted that we need to reiterate is that you said we turn around recruitment incentives immediately. Is that what you said?
We try to.
That's good. No, that's good to hear.
I mean, there's different kinds, like if you're asking for a recruitment incentive on a particular position, like a recruiting above the minimum, then those are easier to do. They're by position. Of course, when we have shortage requests, those take a little bit longer because we have to analyze the whole class against different recruitment data. So we try to do them as quickly as we can, but some of them take a little bit longer.
I guess I'll go into that one then because I wrote down the question, is there a legal definition of hard to fill positions that would trigger bonuses? Is it black and white or is it up to your discretion?
We have a shortage policy, which I'm happy to send you. And the shortage policy delineates all the criteria that we ask the departments to do some research and provide to us, what has been the recruitment history, like have you opened the jobs and how many have you opened and how come have you not filled them? Because sometimes the jobs don't get opened. They have to get opened. They have to be, a lot of the shortage is demonstrated by jobs that are on continuous recruitment. So if you go on our website, you can see there's a lot of engineers, higher level engineers, not the 3 level, but the higher level ones that are licensed 4, 5, 6. Those are often on recruitment, continuous recruitment. And some of the planners, I think, is a shortage that we just passed that policy. But we want to see that there's been, that there's effort or at least demonstrated in the industry that there is a shortage that we can't fill. So we have to be able to justify to other employees in the city why we're raising this particular class.
Understood. I would love to read the shortage policy if you can send that.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask if the 435 vacancy in HPD is a threshold that would, I guess, initiate a retention bonus. We've talked about this for maybe 3 years. I know that we talked about how the recruitment bonus would be through collective bargaining, but that the retention one would be through the city. So is that vacancy rate sufficient that it would trigger bonuses for us to be able to retain officers?
Well, essentially, we do have, it's not a shortage policy, but the recruitment bonus that we have given that's paid out over a number of years is
So they would use the recruitment bonus as a retention bonus?
Well, it's designed to keep them in the force for the first number of years until they become a certain level, till they hit a certain level, but it's really presented as a recruitment bonus. We don't, again, have the flexibility to offer retention pay. It has to, it's part of everyone in HPD is part of SHOPO, and so we're really within the structure of the collective bargaining agreement, which provides, certain across-the-board increases and certain promotional increases and different kinds of premium pay that they're able to earn.
Okay, let's look at that. Let's look at what your recruitment bonuses are and how we can use that in that way. I do think that, over the past 5 years, going from 320 to 435 is a significant drop, and I don't see it stopping. And I want to say that it's concerning because I've seen a lot of the upper ranks leave, which means that we may not have a succession plan. So I don't know how much leadership is coming up. And so we cannot just be getting, rookies getting in. We have to be retaining upper leadership in order for this ship to keep sailing. So can we talk further about that?
I think one of the issues, HPD has one of the highest retirement rates in the city, and that is because of their retirement package. They have a special, for public safety and HPD, they have a special retirement package that allows them to retire at any age after a certain number of years. It's 25 or 30 years.
Yes.
It's changed a little bit, but I think that when we try to retain people who have achieved that age and that level, or not that age, but that level of service for the city, it's difficult because the benefit was designed to allow, to attract people to the service.
I understand. I would say it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, I think that there has been a couple programs suggested, but for example, recently there was a drop program. I think it didn't get through the legislature, but I do think there are, it's a conversation I think we have to have with HPD because they know their officers and their, I think it's something that we have discussed with them, but, I'm not sure what they're able to do at this point. And
thank you, Director.
Yeah.
They're able to do much more. The next question is, for the dispatchers in HPD, who increases their pay, you or the chief? I mean, literally at 10 o'clock at night, we have like one non-emergency dispatcher, one emergency dispatcher, and maybe one person, that's it, at night. So many of them have reached out to me. The pay is terrible. We've talked to our division chiefs. So who raises their pay, the department or you?
Well, when you say raises their pay, do you mean as part of their
entry? Yeah, as part of their hiring. So I think there's two, right? Is you can be in a position in the city and then you get a pay raise, or you can change the actual position code so that it's a better paying starting pay. Which one do you do?
We can, depending on what HPD, what they submit to us in terms of what the dispatchers are doing, and if they're underpaid or they're not classified at the correct level of pay, that's something that they would give us the information for, and we would review and help them with the reclassification. I believe then recently we created we bifurcated the dispatch for police so that they could have an entry-level position where they could train, and then they would get moved up to the second level. And HPD would be, again, better to speak to this, but I believe that the issue is trying to get them, the dispatchers, to fill the upper level for different reasons. And I think, I'm not sure that they have a lot of, I know they have some vacancies, but I think one of the issues is that there is a lot of leave, and people call in and they can't make their shifts, and that's when they have problems. So it might be a capacity issue, but I think there's different operational things that we would want to address with them and to go over that. We've had at least one or two conversations. I haven't heard recently from them about the dispatch class, but absolutely we're concerned about it. We'd like to help, but a lot of it is operations that they kind of run.
Thank you, I appreciate that. If we don't have dispatchers, we actually don't have officers going to the scene. So it's just as important.
Absolutely.
The next question was, the prosecutors came before us, said that they're not being paid comparably to other counties. Is that something that they have to handle, or they have to handle with you?
I believe the prosecutors they're a different class. They're not included, and actually, yeah, they're more like the attorneys for prosecutors. I'm not sure whether they're talking about the civil service but most of the prosecutor's office is not handled as part of the civil service system.
So they would handle it? Is that the answer?
Yeah, well, I believe that the salaries are set by the commission, by the salary commission.
Some of them are, not all.
The attorneys and the people who are exempt from civil service.
So again, the ones who are not set by the salary commission, is that you or them that has to
Well,
fix
that
it?
would be DHR, but it would only be some of the more like the clerical positions, for example, the paralegal assistants, those types of positions that are in our classifications.
Got it. Next question, how do the 89 contract hires work? Just be real brief. Is it you create a new position, you assign it to a department, you solicit with the job description, and then you hire through the department? Is that basically the steps?
The contract hires are typically done at the department level. So the 89-day hires, they're full-time, no benefit contracts that the department, they can sometimes create them to when they can't fill a job, they can have an 89-day hire, and often they're for people that maybe retirees that don't need benefits, and so they'll do, but they have experience the department needs, and so sometimes they will, do those kinds of hires, and so that's
Understood. Just which one is your part and which one is their part? So do you
basically-
create the position or they create the position?
No, we do not create the contract positions. Those are on the department level.
And so do they need your permission?
Well, there's an e-form that gets budget approval, and I believe that we approve the final contract. It depends on how they put the contract up and whether, often we will close the e-form because we need to know, that there's a contract, particular how many contract positions the department
Understood.
might have. But
So it's just a form to inform you, and then you
Correct.
approve it. Then they take it from there.
And sometimes we would advise the department if there's what we call a classification reference, if the position is being created at a certain level, we try to advise the classification reference so that it matches the civil service, so the contracts are paid commensurate to civil
Understood.
service positions.
So you approve and maybe advise?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Last question. Which positions are same-day hires? I tried to do this with your department. They said there weren't any available at the time. Can you just short answer which ones are same-day hires?
Usually the mid to lower level positions, not the specialized positions that require, if it requires anything more than one interview, it wouldn't be a same-day hire, or if there are very few applicants for, if there are going to be not a lot of applications, then we wouldn't need to do a same-day hire.
Do you have a short list of which ones are same-day hires and what
We
departments?
can give you a list of the ones that we've
Thank
done
you.
over the last year. Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
And then sorry, Chair.
Well, for example, council member, like one that we've done several times is office assistant 2 and 3, because a lot of departments need them and they can be interviewed and usually in a 1-hour period.
The Office of Economic Revitalization passed out a handout that they do workforce development where they have a Good Jobs Oahu grant. Is that anything that they do in conjunction with you as far as like filling those
so
positions?
the role that we play for that is we try to facilitate community college graduates and coursework. So one example is when the Department of Parks, they have a nursery worker that requires 6 months of propagation on the job training. And it was very difficult for them to hire the nursery level, so they would have to downgrade and hire aides and then train them up. So we worked with the Good Jobs Hawaii Community College, and we asked them to they have a propagation course, but they needed to tailor it so that the park staff would accept the kind of hands-on training they got in the propagation class. So actually it was very successful because the parks staff was willing to hire people that came right out of community college without downgrading the nursery worker if they passed that course. The
So the
problem
Good
is
Jobs Oahu does fill some of your positions.
I beg your pardon?
So the Good Jobs Oahu does fill some of the empty city vacancies.
Yes.
Okay.
On the specialized one, like blueprint classes is another example for DPP.
Thank you, Director, for being so thorough, and I look forward to the follow-up conversations.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all your work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair Waters, anything? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Director Miyazaki. Thank you very much for your presentation and for being here. I do have a question as it relates to other agencies. First off, what would determine having a permanent hire versus a temporary hire? Because yesterday we found out from the new DIT director that there are 2 scanners that I actually got to meet in their basement area will then become permanent, and they've been temporary for like, I don't know, 6 years maybe? I don't know how many years, but a good amount of years already. So would you be able to share that? Is that supposed to save us money, or is it a contract? Like, what? Please explain that.
I'm not familiar with the specific DIT positions that are temporary. I'm sure my chief can speak to that, but in general, the permanent hires are in the organization chart for the city, so they're established permanent hires, civil service, or excluded managerial staff. So those are all set by the organization chart for each department. Temporary jobs we call them temporary jobs, so they're really contract jobs. And departments will create contract jobs for a whole variety of different reasons. Sometimes they can't if they have a level. I believe that one of the issues with DIT was that they were trying to hire people that didn't qualify, meet the minimum qualifications for their jobs. And so they would, as a contractor, you have a lot more flexibility. You can hire people, train them up, and then until they meet the MQs. But do we have anything? Yes, I'm not sure what the director or DIT director was referring to, but that's generally the difference between a temporary contract job and a permanent hire.
Thank you. And regarding the minimum qualifications, and I know that it has to be agreed upon across the state and with the different counties. And we talked about that during your confirmation as well. And I was just wondering, do we have any wiggle room now since that past month? Any discussions, further discussions that can be agreed upon? Because it's not just an issue with us at the city. I asked my state representative, like, do you guys have the same issue? They're like, oh, we have the very same issue at the state. So I don't know. I don't know if everyone can agree, then let's just make the change.
Well, I think the discussion we've had recently is how do we modernize some of the classes when there are 1,500, and our usually process is that when the departments have a particular issue or they want to reclassify a position or they have a problem hiring and we think that the reclassification needs to be updated, they will come to us and they'll bring the positions and the issues to my classification pay staff to kind of tackle it from the DHR, from the central DHR perspective, to try to figure out, which classes, we can see that some need to be adjusted, and we have those conversations with departments, and we update the classes regularly. We rotate all the review of all the different classifications, but there, whenever we change a class spec, we have to, work very closely with the department because it really is their operation. And then we have to work with other jurisdictions if it's a shared class. I mean, if it's the zoo class, it doesn't matter. But if it's, if they're classes that we share. So I don't know. That's why I think, maybe perhaps we can use some, in the future, some AI technology or some kind of way to capture a little bit more, where some changes need to be made from our side, then that might be helpful to us without having to wait for departments to bring their classification issues. Unfortunately, what happens often is that when a department gets ready to hire and they can't fill a job, then they figure out that maybe they need to change the class. And changing a class spec because of that process it's not an overnight thing. That's one of the things that takes a little bit longer. So again, if we can hopefully get some technology and get some of the research done that's more automated, that would be great for us.
Okay, so I understand because you've been talking about AI and automation and to help characterize or streamline all of that. But what I guess the issue is mainly just I don't know, it's not political will, but I guess kind of having a shared mission from all the different counties and the state to change it. So I don't know if we can just be the lead on it, maybe. I know that we don't want to steamroll everyone, but I think that and I know I mentioned this last month.
Yeah, I think
But I
that
think we really
right now
should
we just don't have a very precise process. I mean, we know that when we try to fill positions and we can't find the people, if it's either, a shortage, but if it's, we can't qualify people, there's a lot of applications and they're close, but they don't make it over on the list, then, those are the times where we can identify there might be an issue with the class, the minimum requirements. But otherwise, I think there's just no real efficient way to identify all the classes that need to be changed in order to be more effective in recruiting.
Okay, so with that, I think maybe to get to that part, let me first ask if, I guess, as HR, do we have any benchmarks on what to hit or any comparisons to the private sector that you can show to the rest of the HRs to be like, hey, this is what we're competing against, and we're down here, we're all the way down here, and or maybe suggest to conduct a market analysis to be able to make that comparable or have that comparative analysis so that we can make the case to whomever we have to, the unions, the different, I don't know, who else, who all the different players are going to be. But is that a possibility?
I'm not exactly clear about what you're asking. Do you mean that we should just run comparisons of all the classes against industry standards? I mean, I think they are, basically using industry standards to some degree, but we are the public sector and we have a lot of jobs that are, some of them are similar, but a lot of them are not. And on those kinds of things, we really rely on departments. They are the subject matter experts and they have to bring their classes to us and they have to explain to, help or make requests and explain to us where the classes are not working for their particular jobs. And so there have been instances where, I've said to, one of the department directors, do you have to be so specific on the kind of degree, and we can generalize it and get more applications, and they'll say no. We want somebody to have lab experience coming out of college, and this is why it says, biology, blah, 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 so there that we can't unilaterally make changes to MQs without department input, especially on the highly specialized jobs. I mean, if we're talking about office assistants and clerks, then there's different kinds of approaches, but those are pretty much, they've been revised ongoing to adapt to modernize them, basically, the office assistant jobs. But the higher level ones, I think are really, we have to rely on working together with the department directors and their subject matter experts.
Yeah, I get that. And I also know that it won't be prompted if you don't prompt it out of the departments too. So even the request of having that comparison, I know it's going to take time, going to take a lot of course, funding, which is why why I'm bringing it up during the budget process but it's good to know because we need those benchmarks to see where we're meeting and where we need to meet, I should say. So was my main points. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Nishimoto, anything? Okay, round 2 questions. Councilmember Wire.
No, thank you, Chair. And just wanted to make comments after floor leader's discussion. And I think you probably agree, but I mean, because of course we want to open up jobs as broadly as possible, because I mean, we do want to make it accessible, but I think at the same time, we don't necessarily want to reduce the standards or the qualifications simply because the person that's qualified is too expensive. Like I think the community is entitled to folks that are experts in all these different positions. And just to be frank, I mean, I think just in the climate we're in, like I think it's our government workers, our city workers, not even elected. I mean, our day-to-day city workers, face a lot of criticism, and I think it's just really important that we acknowledge how hardworking they are, how much they love the community, and recognize their worth, which I think you do. But just say that in the context of what Councilmember Cordero was saying, in that I think we do have to keep up with the times when we see the vacancy rate, particularly as high as it is at HPD, because we're not like Monaco, right, where, you know, we have the ultra rich and then everyone drives in from like Italy and France or neighboring countries to live there. Like we're confined to our island, and like we need government workers to serve the community, and we need them to be able to afford to live here and raise a family and have a good quality of life. So just wanted to share that. I think we're all in agreement on that, but I think that's just kind of the frustration is how do we lead if we know sometimes we're following the state's lead, and you know, I'm completely aware that we rely on state funding for a lot of programs. So I mean, we do want to be nice about it. Like we don't want to anger them. But I do think there's opportunities for us to just acknowledge, like we can have positive conversations to push us in the right direction if we acknowledge that the path we're on is not sustainable in terms of our housing and our workforce and our community. But
Absolutely. And Councilmember Wire, you know, the classification and compensation and pay system for public sector organization is really one we're in collective bargaining, and every year there's agreed upon raises, and some of them get other longevity raises every 3 years. And so it does tend to reward across the board seniority, you know, working for, it's designed that way. And so over years, when certain positions in certain industries, like for example, housing is such a big industry, it's very competitive, you know, sometimes they get out of whack with the rest of the compensation system, then you know, we can identify those easily, and we try to, you know, adjust together with other jurisdictions. But then there are other pockets which are harder to figure out and take a little bit of time. But absolutely, you know, I think that we are in agreement that you know, we want to make sure that everyone is fairly paid within, you know, within the structures that we're given. But we definitely want to make sure that, you know, people are paid fairly.
appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for the presentation. Up next, we have the Department of Enterprise Services, whose presentation can be found as Departmental Communication 201. This will cover the auditoriums, golf courses, zoo, and concessions. All right, please proceed when you're ready.
Good morning, Budget Chair Dos Santos Tam, council members. My name is Dita Hollyfield, Director of the Department of Enterprise Services. With me today is the Deputy Director Tracy Gabota, Administrative Services Officer Denise Peterson, and Division Heads Elizabeth Ishihara, Customer Service, Mitchell Wong, Building Services, Jordan Abe, Golf Courses, Linda Santos, Honolulu Zoo, and Christopher Ching, Concessions. We'll start with slide 1. Our DES operating budget is funded by 3 dedicated special funds for our divisions. The Golf Fund funds the Golf Division, Honolulu Zoo Fund for the Zoo, and the Special Events Fund for Auditoriums and Administrations. This slide reflects DES's overall operating budget expenditures by character. Our total expenditure request remains flat at $30.48 million for FY26. We have a 0.4% decrease in contract FTEs. We reduced 2 FTEs for contract cashiers at the Honolulu Zoo since we currently have an RFP out for solicitation and anticipate starting up a brand new concession contract that will support admission operations, including online ticket sales. We added a 0.80 FTE for contract event staff at the Neil S. Blaisdell Center and the Tom Moffett Waikiki Shell to support operations at our concert hall and shell will be reopened for all events. Our division's line items reflect modest increases due to rising cost of goods. However, they are also offset by decreases in some of the object codes, which were actually just one-time costs to cover priorities in FY25. As such, our salaries and current expenses remain relatively flat over FY25. Overall, equipment requests of $562,400 reflects an increase of 52.7%. Golf Division requires equipment to replace an aging inventory of obsolete mowers, rollers, a top dresser, and a sprayer to maintain their facilities. Auditorium Division is requesting 4 follow-up spots, a riding sweeper, 3 pickup trucks to replace almost 20-year-old vehicles used for personal and equipment transports between the Blaisdell and Waikiki Shell campuses, the 6 courses, the Honolulu Zoo, and City Lights events. Momentary pause, the screen froze. For dramatic pause. Let's continue. Our next slide are budget issues. We have 3 divisions with budget issues in our FY26 current expense report. The Honolulu Zoo's $315,000 request includes $135,000 to address water filtration systems at the Elephant, Primate Islands, and Gharial exhibits to maintain USDA and AZA water quality standards. $156,000 for drainage, wood, and concrete repairs for mammal barns and holding facilities, replacement of a flow meter for the elephant habitat, and repairs to public walkways to meet AZA standards. $24,000 will be needed to replace the orangutan climbing structure to address AZA enrichment standards. And then the Golf Division is requesting $27,000 to provide pest control at its 6 courses. Lastly, Auditoriums Division is requesting $250,000. This addresses repairs to spalling concrete around the perimeter of the concourse walkway in the arena and the interior floor slab in the exhibition hall to ensure safety of our staffs, tenants, and our guests. Next slide. As February 1, 2025, DES had 41 vacancies. This count reflects the deletion of 30 deactivated positions. We have an approximate total of 300 positions. As you have heard from other departments, the vacancies are dynamic. Now, DES currently has 90% of our positions filled, and we have been diligently addressing and working on the remaining 10% vacancy rate. Since February's snapshot, we have filled 13 of the 41 vacant positions, leaving only 28 vacancies. Of the 28 vacancies, we are working on reorganizing and reallocating 10 positions prior to filling. We have asked our division to take a strong look at and analyze each position prior to filling to determine if changes are required to better fit the current needs of our department. So, based on this update, we are planning on filling 13 of the 28 vacant positions by July 1, 25, and the remaining 15 in FY 26. We have prioritized filling our positions based on each division's operational needs, and we do not plan to abolish any positions. Next slide. This slide reflects DES's overtime requests broken down by division. It totals $363,000. Our overtime calculations are based on operational needs to provide staff coverage for 7 days a week in all of our divisions. Our holiday overtime request is based on 13 holidays in FY 26. The non-holiday overtime hours are calculated based on the evaluation of our prior year's usage. This will provide optimal coverage for operations when our staff call out sick, take vacation, family, maternity leave, etc. We utilize overtime funds and laps when we do not use. Next slide. And my favorite slide. This chart reflects DES's revenue estimates, broken down by activity. DES estimates an overall increase of $1,400,000 in total revenues for FY 26. Our concessions program provides an array of services to the public, including food and beverage, parking, beach services, just to name a few. We wanted to share one of the changes we have made in our concessions program, which is anticipated to result in an 11.5% decrease in revenues, although the total amount of money is smaller at $230,000. This is based on the plans to convert one of our Waikiki Beach Services contracts that will become operated by a nonprofit. It's incorporated to support the Beach Boy tradition and the culture. A 4.7 increase for auditoriums is primarily due to the reopening of the concert hall, Tom Moffett Waikiki Shell, which is closed for capital improvements. Both venues will be open and fully functioning this year. Whoop-hoo! A 1.5% revenue increase is projected for the Honolulu Zoo while they convert to a new concession contract for food, beverage, and retail services. This will add an online ticketing component to support and enhance admissions. The $106,000 increase is anticipated for the first year of the contract, with higher revenues estimated in the future. The contract is currently in solicitation. And golf courses are projected to increase by $1.27 million, or 11.3%. And so far, FY25, our aggressive marketing strategy resulted in a 7.8% increase, totaling $700,000. Here's big news, breaking news for everybody today in the golf division. Last week's golf numbers, just 1 week, showed an increase in revenues, which for the first time, Macarena Golf Course as the top weekly producer of $77,000 in 1 week. Aloi has always continued to be strong at 62 average, but then trailing, the other big news, Westlock is only trailing Aloi by $3,000. So now we've got bumped up all three of those golf courses, and we're just continuing to grow. So in FY26, we continue to invest in our marketing initiatives like our Muni Monday radio program, advertising during UH games, cultivating partnerships with local professional golf icons, industry partners. We also partner with all junior golf programs, which is super important to know that we're trying to foster the next generation of municipal golfers in Hawaii, including the OIA, the ILH, and we've booked 12 high school tournaments at our Muni golf courses. We anticipate these efforts will continue to grow and enhance our revenues. Next slide. This slide reflects our CIP budget, request for totaling $14.3 million. Our CIP priorities include projects to address health and safety, improve aging infrastructures, and maintain the zoo accreditation standards. Tracy, Linda, and I will be leaving in a week and a half to Palm Springs so that we can join and share at the hearing. So we look forward to bringing back good news. Although construction projects may cause some disruptions, we have worked very closely with DDC to sequence and plan each improvement to minimize impacts to our operations and services to the public at each of the venues. At this moment, I just want to take a small acknowledgement to DDC, who has been an enormous helpmeet in terms of our success and how they're crossing the finish line in a timely manner and supporting all the projects that we need to get across the finish line. Next slide. We are requesting a $6.6 million for the Blaisdell Center's Concert Hall front of house Phase 2 project. Funded improvements to the back of the house have already been completed. We are just opening the concert hall in time for the spring Broadway season, and I hope that everybody has purchased their tickets to attend. The funding request for FY26 will supplement the FY25 funds so the project can accomplish health, safety, and ADA improvements. It is our hope at DES that in behalf of Mayor and his tenure here and service to the city, we will be able to fully open the concert hall in all its glory. And I'm telling you, it is going to be spectacular. We will be upgrading plumbing, renovating restrooms, concession space, and the lobby of the concert hall in 2 parts. The first part of construction will require an approximate 14-month closure, which will happen in 2027 to address the lobby area, Ward Avenue, concession space, and Mauka restrooms. The second part, which will address the Mackay restrooms and concession area, will be done while the concert hall is actually going to be used. In addition, utilizing FY24 CIP funds, we are pleased to share that the upgrades to the concert hall lawn surrounding the entrance will be conducted this October, all the way to October 26. This project will improve guests' safety, refresh the landscape areas, improved electrical and lighting, new sidewalks, replacement of the diseased and dying palms that are in the front, a new automated irrigation system, so I won't be pinged about why is the grass brown, and the addition of 50 companion trees. Under enterprise facilities improvements, $125,000 is requested for unanticipated mechanical, electric, and structural improvements for both the Blaisdell and the Waikiki Shell campuses. The golf division is requesting $3.18 million, and $3 million will provide for a series of improvements to the Alawai Golf Course aging water system infrastructure. This will allow for the golf course to fully convert its irrigation to non-potable water sources and conserve the island's supply of drinking water. $125,000 is requested to address unanticipated improvements at the 6 municipal golf courses. The Honolulu Zoo CIP request includes $400,000 in design for the Hawaii Islands exhibit. $1,585,000 in the Honolulu Zoo improvements is anticipated to fund the following: modifications to the orangutan exhibit to integrate Saimangs, we'll be putting them together, elephant hydraulic gate improvements, walkway and guardrail safety improvements in the Savannah area, planning and design of telecommunications infrastructure to support the zoo's connectivity needs, designing infrastructure to support wayfinding graphics. And $2,410,000 is requested to construct a new animal holding facility next to the veterinary clinic. This will provide much needed dedicated space for animals that require care through quarantine, medical treatment, and observation. At this time, it is my privilege to have presented our ideas, and I look forward to answering any questions that you guys have.
Members, I'm going to start with Councilmember Tolba since this falls in his committee, and then we'll work our way this way.
Thank you, Chair. That's the kind of excitement you gotta have when asking for money, you know? Thank you, Director. You know, it looks like you're estimating about 28 million in revenue. Is there any way we can increase that? You know, as a part-time entertainer, I know that people want to come here. So is there any way we can attract bigger and better acts in, like, you know, moving the needle more than just 28 million? You know, I do understand that, you know, a lot of our facilities were under repair and could not be used, or so. Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say. Any way we can, you know, boost that up?
Thank you for that question. I'm super excited because as I started to study the actual way that we make money through the existing business model in entertainment nationwide, it's changed dramatically over the years. Back in the 60s, the 70s, and some of the 80s, the artists actually made their money through selling CDs and albums and records. Now the artists make all and most of their money because of Spotify and all the different platforms that have diluted streaming. They actually make their money touring, which for us as venues and promoters makes it a little bit more challenging. So some of my ideas that I have, I'm going to be working with Councilmember Kiana, and hopefully you as well, of course. We want to be putting together a new rental fee bill, because I'll give you the short math. If there's $100,000, the artist now makes $90,000 of the $100,000, and the promoter only makes 10%. So let's say we want to have a promoter and we want him to entice him to bring 10 shows a year. Well, he's not really making that much money. So if we can work on a rental fee bill, which I'm super excited about with Elizabeth Ishihara, she is definitely the expert in this field. We're going to be making some tiered opportunities where the split is different. So let's say if we charge more, $6,000 to rent the Blaisdell, if he can get $30,000, the promoter makes $30,000, and he comes $10,000 or 10 times a year, he's going to make 300,000, and that will also incentivize the promoter to add, Beyonce on the stop in Honolulu. So that is one of our biggest ways that we're going to try to do. The other thing is, I'd like to acknowledge Brandy Anellis is here. We actually have a sales and marketing person on our staff now. She's done a lot of homework and gone out. She's gone to the convention center, our competition. We're looking at ways to advertise and get a lot more business, some of the low-hanging fruit that we've left, or we also want to teach the next generation of promoters in the state how to become local promoters. So we have a lot of different ideas in which we can raise a lot more money through our ticket sales, and of course, naturally, with the concert hall and the Waikiki Shell, we're going to increase our revenues organically.
I'm gonna let the rest of the members ask the question, and maybe I got something wrong too. Thank you.
Okay, Budget Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you. Good to see you. Hope you're recovering from your. My question is similar to Chair Toba. You guys have about a $30 million operating budget that you get from us. You bring in about 27+ million in revenue. That 27+ million projection, is that built in with all the things you just talked about, that the improvements you're doing, or is that going to be on top of the 27 million?
I couldn't hear the last part, I'm sorry.
So you talked about some of the improvements you're making, right? And some of the revenue enhancements you're trying to generate. Is that projection of 28 million with those enhancements on top of it, or is that on top of the 27 or 28 million?
Thank you. I understand your question. So that number does reflect projections with the venues being open, but all of the things that we're thinking, I mean, it's going to be groundbreaking when it comes to doing a new rental fee structure and how we can add extra dollars to the bottom line and enhance and attract better promoters who have the bigger and better artists. The other thing that we're doing, I'm really excited about, is Chair Waters and his sponsorship conversations that he's putting down. I think this is going to help immensely, that the monies that we can raise, there's so many great ideas for that. I believe that's really going to help our revenue generation as well. Thank you for the question.
Is there a way you can quantify that to say, okay, this new idea, this bill we're working on, it's going to be $2 million more? Or is there a way you can quantify it or give us a ballpark figure?
So I don't think there's any way to quantify it because we're still in the early stages today of exactly even how we're going to structure it. Elizabeth and I have been working on something since last summer, but now that we've got buy-in from the city council, I think it's unlimited. Again, it's going to be based upon what the market bears. We're looking for better acts, and then of course, just in the business model, the acts and the promoters, they actually are the ones that set the pricing of the tickets. That wouldn't be us. So it's kind of hard to figure that out currently, but what we can quantify is some demographics so that if we get better ticketing systems, we can find out 70% were female, 30% were male. What age brackets is going to help us help the promoters look for the right types of acts that will resonate financially in the marketplace.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Director Hollyfield.
Good morning.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you for bringing the sunshine that you bring to us in the chamber. I want to follow up. I did also mention this to DHR, but thank you so much. It's good to hear your successes in your vacancies and adjusting positions. I like to hear that within your department, you're reorganizing or figuring out where you can best use the positions that you have. I wanted to ask you about the contract services, contract FTEs as well. I think you have it underneath auditoriums. The bulk of it is listed under there. What was that? What would that be for? Like 27.05 for this fiscal year. I think the majority of them are in this part of your budget.
So, sorry, I'm having a little bit of an issue trying to turn the pages. So the majority of that is going to be in our customer services and our contract services and the ushers. So again, that kind of follows along with what Councilmember Nishimoto talked about. The more that we book, the more that we need, more ushers. And it is a 7-day-a-week facility. So, it kind of ebbs and flows, and we try year by year to figure out what is going to the middle ground to ask for the finances. But it does bear a challenge just because it's based on usage.
No, okay, thank you. That makes sense. As the usage increases, so will the need for the personnel. Thank you for clarifying that. What could you explain to me what the special projects fund is? It's in your zoo summary, and it's not a nominal amount, but I was just curious. This $34,000. I saw that was the only amount like that. That's why. What was this special projects? Is this a project you explain in your summary? Forgive me if I am asking a question that you already answered.
I'm actually going to defer to Tracy Kubota. Thank you.
Sorry, Councilmember, I'm not sure what you're referring to. 34,000 for.
It was under. It's listed as special projects fund, and it's on your zoo. It was in your summary, and then you have it underneath the Honolulu Zoo. And I was just curious because it's the only one like that in your budget. On page B78.
Oh, I see where you're seeing that. Okay, we're gonna have to look into that. I'm not familiar with. I see it here. Yeah, we're gonna have to get back to you on that one. Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
I'd appreciate that. And I will say, Director, that when I'm driving into work and I'm stuck in traffic in the morning, I hear a lot of your golf, the municipal golf commercial. So great job on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. I was curious to know how much you spent on it. You provided that information. Do you know how much revenue has been generated since those commercials have been in place? I know you. Actually, I think I wrote it down somewhere. You mentioned
I can give you a little bit of data on it. Yeah, thank you. So we started our full-fledged digital and radio campaign, which was January of 2024. And we immediately saw a huge bump in revenue generation. It was the first time at the golf division that we actually hit $1 million a month, and we have really not turned back since. So that was when we started everything. And I would like to say that, we have a multifaceted marketing strategy. It's not just based on radio, but the radio supplements and backs up our digital campaign. So our digital campaign is serving all kinds of ads on your PCs and on your phones, and we're deploying geofencing tactics. So when you enter the fence on our golf courses, as well as some of our competitors, I won't say the names, you will also get a ad on your phone that invites you to play at the Muni golf courses. And one of our new strategies this year is to say, come to the Muni courses. Practice, so when you get invited to your tournaments, you are ready to win.
Great job, thank you. I wanted to follow up on that because it's exciting to hear all of the successes that you're doing, all the improvements, and just putting out our city, resources out there. I was curious as to how these golf courses are maintained. I did have a constituent contact or come to me at a town hall and say that they had concerns. They go to a specific, actually it was the one that you mentioned that was the top weekly producer, and they had questions about the maintenance, and they were kind of shocked to see how it was poorly maintained. And that was the only complaint I've heard. So I'm going to be honest, willing to follow up on that, and we'll hope to do so when we get to sit one-on-one. But I wanted to understand, if we're putting out the commercials, just how are we making sure that the product is then presentable? It's a city golf course, like you said, but so that we have the advertisements match up with what's actually.
We want our product to reflect exactly what we're putting out there, I think is what you're really talking about. And I'm very proud of Jordan Abe and his team. We have, last year when we had this explosion of attendance, Jordan came to me and he's like, Director, we need to slow this down so that we can make sure that our courses are reflective of what we are trying to accomplish, and we want to put the best face forward for the mayor and for you guys and for our city. So, they are a massive pieces of land. And depending upon, just like your areas in which you live, some need more watering than others, and et cetera, et cetera. So we are on top of everything. And yes, I wish that we really could make sure that every single corner is as green as it could be or whatever. But, you know, we are a work in progress, but we have it under control, and it is a top priority for us.
That's great to hear. You mentioned the lawnmowers that you have purchased. When do you expect for them to arrive and then be in operation?
I'll ask. Around 6 months.
Okay, great to hear. And this is just, I have one final question based on what you stated, and I'm not trying to point any, I was curious, you mentioned the really great relationship that you have with DDC, and I'm not just saying this because they walked in, but my ears perked up because I know that that's not always the case in other projects. So what have you guys been able to do that's made this relationship and the success between the two departments successful?
Thank you for bringing that up, because they're in here, so it makes me feel excited to brag on them. I have such a great working relationship with director and deputy, and we meet weekly. We go through an organized, prioritized plan. They're fluid, so if we have things come up, they're willing to stop, drop, and roll and make sure that our priorities are taken care of. They come to our facilities and are always overlooking, and I've learned a lot. I wouldn't necessarily say in my background that would be something that I have the strongest, experience in. They've done a great job in mentoring me, and they have a long-term relationship working with our deputy that is superior. So I'm just really thankful. They really, really care about, our projects, but they always come up with solutions for things to do quicker and make sure that we cross the finish line and never let us lapse.
That's really great to hear. I would love to see this type of success kind of go across the board to other departments and other projects. Thank you so much for all that you're doing. I'm excited to see the success, and I can tell, again, it's a result of the energy that you bring. Thank you to you and your team. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, mahalo, Director, for all the work you're doing and your team. It's really appreciated, and I think we're seeing the success, so that's amazing. I didn't actually really have too many questions, but just wanted to hone in. So you were talking about using digital ads, targeted digital ads. And I'm just curious, in terms of costs, like I'd imagine that's lower cost than other types of outreach or media. I mean, doing a commercial or something like that, right? Could you kind of walk us through maybe again how you're using digital or targeted ads?
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so digital marketing has a lot of different facets to it. One of the low-hanging fruit is always considered social media, right? So you can intentionally send out your message and organically grow followers and participation and interest. That takes a lot of work. You have to do it all the time to continue to grow, but that's the low-hanging fruit on the digital platform. Another platform that I know you've used successfully before as well is geofencing, okay? Geofencing means you buy certain zip codes and you buy around the area and where you would like to send the ads on your phone, on your PC, on your computers. So if I wanted to target anybody going through the fence in the Ted Macarena area, I would buy those zip codes, and then when you walk, run, or drive a bike, whatever, you cross the fence line, you will be served an ad that will tout and get you and invite you to the Ted Macarena golf course for that particular example. The third way to do it is site retargeting. So if you go on the site, you're like, I'm going to look up Ted Macarena, or I'm going to look up a different golf course. Once you go in there, an ad follows you for 30 days on your phone because you have intentionally reached that site and you're looking for the information. And then lastly, on that digital platform, we deploy keyword searches so that if you're like golf clubs, greens, a time to relax, we also buy keywords. So when you say it or you type it, we will send you an ad as well.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
And I just highlight that because, and I'm hoping you get to talk about all this stuff during cabinet meetings too. because I think there's so much potential there. Because we know, I mean, a lot of folks aren't sitting at home watching our council meetings and our committees and then all the great stuff the city is doing. And then if the news picks it up, it's like 30 seconds of it. And so as we're talking through like these huge, whether it's public safety issues, right? I mean, the e-bikes, the fireworks, I mean, the whole range of issues the city's confronting. It sounds like you have a pretty awesome system for getting information out to the public in a cheaper way, maybe. And of course, we wouldn't use it for every single issue, but I think it's such an amazing use of tools we have available in our community. It's innovative. And so just so glad that you're in this position and have the great team that you do. So mahalo.
Thank you for the avocation.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Budget Chair. Hi, Director Hollifield. Thank you very much for being here and your presentation, and mahalo to your whole team. I do want to note that your geofencing is working so well that when I was in DC, just a few days ago, actually, they mentioned that a staff member who is 24 years old watches our meetings here. So yes, they do watch us. From Senator Hirono's office says that when you search up, I guess, Honolulu City Council or City and County of Honolulu, it will show Honolulu Zoo and for the main City and County of Honolulu website for honolulu.gov. So I know that's something you probably got to work out with either Bing or maybe our main DIT, but maybe the geofencing is working really well.
Thank you.
Okay, so with my first question is relating to the different rent and use of facilities. I know that there's that farmer's market on the lawn, and you mentioned that the lawn will be going through different changes. You know, there's gonna be 50 trees, and I was wondering how much money does that farmer's market on a Wednesday, I guess, since it's cyclical, how much money does that make us? And if there's going to be plans to kind of rotate that? I've never been, but I see it.
Great question, thank you. For edification, we have moved already in anticipation. We have moved the farmer's market to the ward side so that it's in the parking lot. So that's anticipation of some of the green work that we're going to be doing. To answer your question in terms of revenue, that actually is coming in through a third-party vendor. And so we do it as a service with a rental fee and our concessions partnership.
Vendor. Okay, thank you. And I was wondering if you have any strategies or plans to utilize those spaces or spaces, I guess, for other parts of the days of the week? Because that's just on a Wednesday, right?
So I always tease that I'm the NASCAR of the city and county. I will rent any space, any place that anybody we can figure out will help them accommodate.
Okay.
To answer your question.
Okay.
In a lighthearted manner.
Okay, got it. All right, so, but there's no strategy, we're not outreaching?
I don't have a strategy for daytime usage, so I think that's really smart on your part to help me think more out of the box.
Right.
Like, okay, we've got the weekends, we've got the nights, but what can we think about elsewhere for revenue generation, as Councilmember Nishimoto asked earlier? Thank you.
Oh, definitely, and I definitely am thinking about it in Kapalama, and even already asking near and under rail stations and what laws we should change. So, for in my area, I won't say it for anyone else's area, but in my backyard, yes. Okay, so my next question is, oh no. Okay, never mind. You answered it actually. So the third-party vendor. So with that rental, with a possible rental fee restructuring, will you be looking at the third-party vendor restructuring as well, so that we can maybe make more revenue?
So anybody can, so the rental fees will be under us 100%. Okay. It's just based upon who the concessionaire or the promoter that we rent it to, and then how they fill their empty box within their own business model.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I do also want to ask, how has do we know if you're going to be planning any other cost savings projects at any other DES properties like you have at the Blaisdell?
So the only other, in what you're talking about for the auditorium specifically, we do have plans in the 6th year for some projects at the Waikiki Shell and upgrades there. We do, of course, the zoo is ongoing because it's animal care, health, and safety. So that's all, projects are always going on at the Honolulu Zoo. And then the golf, as I said, we're really on target for the things that we're trying to accomplish. They seem to be, you know, in pretty good shape. And with the equipment that we're going to be acquiring, that's going to assist us in a better product. So thank you, everybody, for the consideration.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And thank you. Keep up those Honolulu Zoo live cams going, because I know I love to watch the zoo live cams, especially the sloth. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilmember Hiaina.
Thank you. Good to see you, Director. I don't know if you saw the budget hearing this morning, but we approved a beautiful affordable housing project in Councilmember Toba's district, 127 units, 60, most of them are 60 AMI and 30% AMI. And I admitted that I was jealous. And now that you've told me that Makalena Golf Course, which is in his district, is #1, I'm even more jealous because, you know, I've implemented a Pali Golf Course no Ka'oi strategy, and I'm hoping that you can make sure that Pali Golf Course is going to be improved so that we could also raise the revenue to make it a top-notch golf course. What's your plans for Pali?
So Pali, in my opinion, is absolutely of the 6, the most beautiful course there is. I mean, it's spectacular. You've got the rolling green hills, the beautiful palms, and of course, the backdrop of the Ko'olau Mountains. It's just spectacular. It feels beautiful and warm when you go there. You know, I have dreams for that particular place. One is to have some sort of a driving range opportunity there, as well as we just launched, and that was inspired by you, City Council, especially Chair Waters, where we actually have a golf cart now that uses a QR code. We're technology savvy. When you're hitting balls on the 4th hole and you're hungry or you're thirsty, all you do is QR code that, and the golf course comes out and serves your every whim. So I promise you, we are absolutely trying our best to bring up that Pali Golf Course so it can become no Ko'oi.
Okay, terrific. Good to hear. Good to hear. I'm waiting for next year's budget hearings. You know, I don't know if you clarified on concessions, so I know you guys talked about that as well as third party. I just want to make sure, because there were previous efforts. With regard to the authority that you have for the duration of contracts, is it sufficient for concessionaires, or is there anything more that the City Council could do to give you the duration that is needed? I previously heard that some concessionaires it wasn't worth their time and they didn't submit a bid simply because their return on investment was not there. Is that addressed?
Yes. Thank you so much for asking this question, because I've been given the authority by DMD today to share some exciting news, and that is in the concessions division. First of all, DES have been granted the opportunity to pick a priority list anywhere from 4 to 10 to 15 concessions that we're going to be able to start to deploy and execute on our own with just my particular signature. And so we're really excited about that. The other piece of that puzzle is to start to try to get it to a 5 or a 10-year, depending on the type of business structure needed and what type of contract. Obviously, we're going to be cautious. We're going to be under the purview of CORE as we decide to go autonomous. Christine and I this is groundbreaking history, and I think it's really going to help the quality of concessionaire offerings that we have, strengthen the attraction to the right people, better concessionaires, because we're going to give them an opportunity to get a huge return on their investment. Basically, that's the bottom line.
So in short, you have the authority. What is the maximum amount a year you can give a concession?
10 years.
Okay, so that's sufficient, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Lastly, my question relates to and Oahu Tourism Strategic Plan. As you may know, I introduced a resolution 25-48, and in the hearing, we actually inserted, in addition to the Office of Economic Revitalization, we inserted the Director of Enterprise Services in receiving a copy of the resolution. And of course, the reason I'm doing this is it's, by the way, the emphasis is not to just maximize tourism revenues here. It's to ensure that because we take, we contribute the bulk of tourism revenue in the state, and we are the most impacted with regard to communities, that the city stands to benefit from a strategic plan because we're the only county that does not have one. So my question to you is, and I asked it to the Director of Economic Revitalization, do you think that there is a role for enterprise services because you have been around longer, you understand, I'm taking it, you read the resolution, you understand what we're trying to achieve here. And so I'm just wondering, because we're gonna need to probably contract out someone to work with an appropriate city agency. Do you potentially see this as a kuleana that enterprise services could undertake?
So thank you for the opportunity. I'm honored that you would think so highly of our office. And I do think that we do have some experience in this area for sure. I'm going to be speaking and meeting with Amy tomorrow. I'd like to defer on some of the details that I want to talk to her about just as fair play with her. But the thing that, that we've already done, we've advocated for the Honolulu Zoo, for our auditoriums and our golf division. When I first started, the first thing Jordan, Abe, and I went and met with all the players in the tourism. You know, we met with movies team, we met with people that, you know, rent golf courses and golf clubs, and people that, you know, do transportation and all of that stuff. So I'm honored to be a part of the discussion, and I will see what the outcome is tomorrow with Amy.
Okay, good to hear. And by the way, I'm not trying to create a competition. From a strategic point of view, I'm just looking at agencies with background. Of course, an interagency approach is going to be needed because I'm not looking to do the job of the Hawaii Tourism Authority or the Visitors Bureau, but we have a vested interest because it's a major economic driver to care about the impact on our communities.
Yes.
And as you know, we get minimally $8 million from the transient accommodation tax to address impacts. So that's all. I just wanted to throw that out. It's top of mind for me. It's going to full council on March 19th. But thank you for all that you and your team do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Waters.
Thank you. Aloha, Director.
Hi, Chair Waters.
Yeah, I got to give credit where credit's due. It's actually Councilmember Cordero who's spearheading the sponsorship idea. So, but there's so much opportunity, and I'm really excited that you're excited about it. And I want to encourage you to work with Councilmember Tolba to figure out as many possible ways that we can generate more revenue using our city resources without having to raise taxes. So that's wonderful. Speaking of which, do you see any opportunities to put concessions in our new rail stations?
I actually have never thought of that idea. Of course, that I mean, we're looking for opportunities at every turn. One of the things that Chris Ching did for us in terms of our concession growth, I wanted to mention, was with the H-Bay transportation. Now on the ticketing side, the tickets for H-Bay, you also, the winner of the concession bid, will be including half of his daily tickets also for the Honolulu Zoo. So we're going to naturally and organically raise concession revenue because of that big time idea. And I give full credit to Chris Ching for that great idea. And so I see a similar path in looking for different places in which we could do food and beverage and things like that, and maybe even become a place where you buy holo cards and other things. So I think I had not thought of that. Thank you.
You know, I know Chris, you mentioned Chris, he does a lot. You have 41 vacancies. Are any of these vacancies positions that could actually help Chris? Or do you need us to add another position on?
So the concession vacancies are about 24 and some change.
Wow.
So Chris is actually going to be, we're always reaching out and looking for better.
Figure out some of the spaces that they have that we could actually generate revenue from.
Absolutely. I think that's going to, again, align itself, Chair Waters, with the fact that now that we're going to pilot the program to become more autonomous, we're going to have a lot more less people's hands touching. In turn, it's going to go faster so we can get our existing concessions out, and then we can start to look for other opportunities. I would like to collaborate with you as well, sir, on that idea.
Awesome. Let's turn to Blaisdell for a second. I see that you have in your CIP budget, is it about 6.5 million? 6.7 for the auditoriums at Blaisdell. I want to bring up, recently my son played in a volleyball tournament at the convention center, and the tickets were $25. And I asked the organizer, why is it so expensive? He told me that the convention center charges him $25,000 a day for this volleyball tournament. So I'm thinking, why can't we do that at the Blaisdell and take some of that business away from the convention center? But is the Blaisdell set up for stuff like that?
So there's a yes and no answer in what you asked. So we are not a sports facility. And so when we are asked sometimes to do and hold and host sports, Mayor had asked me this last year to really help the high school, groups to hold their places. We are a value priced place, which also helps some of those types. If you're talking about world-class tourism groups that come over, yes. So I think it goes along with that tiered, revenue generation rental bill that I was talking about, number one. Number two, if Carrie Underwood comes to the Hawaii like she did last summer, she's not renting. Most of the things she uses for her performance are not owned and operated by us, right? We're the venue. So it goes along with the sport. So we would need to invest if this is the direction that we feel like we want to go, and the return on investment is a great opportunity. I'm not opposed to going down that road. I just want to make sure that if we can make $25,000, that sounds fantastic. But if we're only going to raise our rental fee bill a little bit, then to buy a $300,000 basketball floor, that's going to be a challenge. So I appreciate your ideas for sure.
No, thank you for bringing up basketball, because my understanding was that the state basketball tournament could not be done at the Blaisdell because the basketball court is in disrepair. How much will it cost to repair the basketball court?
I do not think at this point, according to the people that we brought in to really look at it, I don't think it's usable even one more time. And I think we did do the numbers, we ran the numbers, it's $300,000 if we had a basketball court. I mean, that court has been used, for many, many years. We do have a finite amount of storage space too, unlike some of the other venues. So we do have a place which is indoor and it is climate controlled, and but we would need to invest in the future in that. Great question.
Thank you. The University of Hawaii's basketball court in the Stan Sheriff Arena, I think they generate anywhere between $5 and $10 million for sponsorship of that, just naming the court. So I think if we were able to fix our basketball court, perhaps we could generate some revenue that would pay for the renovations.
So I would like to address it really quick. I agree 100%. I think it goes back to talking about the sponsorship ideas. Right now, the Stan Sheriff, if let's say you spent $5 and you're a sponsor, you're going to get tickets and this and that and this. And the reason why I brought it up is because currently I do not own any of my own inventory ticket-wise. So if you give me $5 million for 5 years at the Blaisdell and you want in that package the loge on the right side, AAA, whatever, I don't own that inventory. So we are going to have to come back to you guys. The promoter controls the pricing and the inventory. So I appreciate the opportunity for edification today.
Thank you. Beach Boy Services, is that part of the administration DES concessions?
Yes, that is correct. We were talking about the drop, the 11.7% in concession revenues. It's due to the one Beach Boy stand that's going to go to a nonprofit sometime in June this summer.
Oh, really?
We're going to start the process of awarding the concession, yes.
I mean, that's my district, right, Waikiki. I get complaints about some of the Beach Boy concessions setting up chairs and umbrellas with nobody using them. I forget what it's called, but I thought these guys made money. You're telling me they lost $230,000, or they didn't pay us $230,000? Us meaning the city.
So I'm not sure exactly in reference which.
So are they making money?
Well, it's like every other business model. Everything, they pay us to have their concession, and how they run their business model, we are not really involved. Everybody has a menu. Everyone's paying similar in pricing, just dependent upon what it is that they've been awarded. So if they're not making money, that's going to be something that they, are going to have to look internally with about how they're structuring their business at this point.
Now, I can work with you and Chair Tolba on the Beach Boy concessions. Let's figure out how to pump that up. I think we could generate so much more revenue there. I know it's been controversial, but it's worth the time and effort. Lastly, I want to build you a new Blaisdell Arena in Kaka'ako Park.
You want to build another Blaisdell?
Yep. And put affordable housing where the current Blaisdell is. You could so I'd like to take a tour of the current Blaisdell and figure out what part of Blaisdell we could put affordable housing buildings there, but then move the arena to Kaka'ako Park and then figure out how we can turn that into a money maker for the city.
Today, I have been full of surprises by you, sir, and I appreciate you challenging my mind as it is blown out today. But I love to have and give you, we call it the nickel tour at the Blaisdell, and show you what we have been doing and some of the progress that we've been making. There is no doubt it's an aging facility in which we have to work really hard to keep it up to snuff. It's almost right over 60 years as of last year, I believe. So, we do have our work cut out for you and for our community, but thank you for the opportunity to expand on the next generation of attendees.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work, and thank you to your deputy director and your team.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Aloha, Director.
Aloha.
We feel like we're on The Price is right now, saying all the great things. I wanted to clarify, I asked Director Kawano about how many concession contracts that you had that we're trying to get out, and I said it was around 32. He said it was 18. How many concession contracts are we trying to get out?
So there's an influx. Some of those numbers are correct and some of those are not correct. We have more than a couple dozen that are out, and then we have some that we're looking at reactivating, and some that are coming up for bid in 2 and 3 years. So we definitely have a lot that we need to move as quick as possible, and that's where we really appreciate our administration and Director Kawano for giving us, and Paula actually from purchasing. They're going to give us the opportunity and a pilot program, thanks in part to you and the conversations that you you who've offered up for us. We're going to have an opportunity to look at a list. We're going to try to supply even something before I go to AZA, a list of the easier concessions and the ones that we can get out as quick as possible, and then and move those forward as quick as we can.
Yeah, the new concessions division sounds great.
I know, we're so excited.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I was comparing this year to last year for you, and you know, right here, your budget expenditures where you have almost every single one is down. Bravo. Yeah, we definitely wish that there was this kind of either, you know, staying steady or bringing it down every year in every department, because I think that it shows fiscal responsibility. I also think that in your overtime, I compared this to last year, and every single number is down. Every single one. So that's good. That means that you're managing the actual working hours better and that we're not paying a huge amount of overtime, which also is a reflection of your vacancies. In your revenues, everything is up. And in fact, the one that went the highest, which was your golf courses, was actually 4.7 million down last year. So for all of your numbers to be going up on revenues and down on expenses, just good job. My goodness.
Thank you. It's a testament to the team, the leadership team, as we started to solidify and get to know each other and a focus-driven plan.
Yeah, no, it's great. And, you know, just going off of what Chair Waters said about the basketball thing, I do appreciate that the Blaisdell did open up their parking because, you know, it was state championships. And so it was an important game for our family, for everybody else. But I do think that it was the best we could do. And I think that without the storage space and, of course, up-to-date equipment, it's going to be hard. But I would say a lot of people do prefer the prices at the Blaisdell than the convention center. I mean, I know plenty of local people trying to do events, and they would never be able to afford it at the convention center. So I'm glad that our rates are still friendly for the local market. And I guess, you know, Augie has the boldness to ask for more than $20 million, which is great, right? You're over here like pounding out 20 million. We're like, hey, what about 40 million? But, you know, I do think that a lot of that has to do with each of them, not just having more hooks and more marketing, but attracting more, right? So I'm looking forward to working with you on possibly, you know, we want to see a panda come to the zoo. So we did talk about it, and I do have a donor for that. But, you know, I think that that would be something that possibly could, you know, bring in new types of guests to the zoo, but without some of those wow factors, I know that it's going to be hard to get up there in numbers. So I'm looking forward to supporting you and the different ideas that you have, because I think your marketing approach and your out-of-the-box thinking could even be applied to the rail. It could be applied many places, and I know you're only one person, and you have a great division that you're working with. So thank you for your leadership. I personally will continue to support your efforts, and I know here on the council, we're willing to give and listen to what problems we need to handle so that you can be more successful.
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, this brings me to my questions, and Councilmember Tupola actually queued me up for what was going to be my last set of questions. This year's CIP for the zoo appears to cover 5 things, but doesn't cover the addition of new animals. Is there a plan in future CIP years to have new animals that we don't have?
Yes. And I knew she was teeing you up there. I was like, here we go, zoo. We, of course, we plan 6 years in advance, and I know you, particularly as council member, Tupola loves pandas, you love bitterongs, and so I'm excited to announce, because I was not coming without an answer today, trust me, is that we're looking at 2027 to start bringing the bitterongs to the Honolulu Zoo, and I know you are going to be thrilled.
Great. Okay, my next set of questions deal with page C61, which is the revenue page. I note that for zoo food concessions, as well as box office service fees, these are lower in FY25 and 26 than they were in FY24. Is there a reason why that's the case?
You want to defer? I'm going to defer to Deputy.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So on page C61, which is the enterprise service revenue sheet, the zoo food concessions is higher in FY24. It was 407,000 for zoo food concessions. And then lower, the estimate's lower in FY25 and 26. It's only 350,000. And then same for box office service fees, which were 1.7 million in FY24 and are estimated at 600,000 and 650,000 in FYs 25 and 26. Is there a reason?
Okay, so for the food concession for the zoo, they're doing the transition phase between the existing and the new solicitation that we're anticipating. So that's what the numbers were reflecting.
And the box office service fees, is there a reason why it was substantially higher in 24 and then lower in 25 and 26?
I think that's just really dependent on the number of shows and tickets they plan to sell.
Okay.
Thanks.
If I could qualify, I do know that some of the shows, when we were projecting as well, we're projecting sold out and some numbers that sometimes don't realize. So that's definitely part of the reason.
I see. Okay, round two questions. Anyone? Round two questions for enterprise services. If not, last question. What artist are you most excited about for the next fiscal year?
So my answer is for Councilmember Okimoto, anybody that's country, first of all. But I think this year I'm actually the most excited about Broadway. And Broadway, we went to the ends of the world to get the 3 shows that have never been here. And we also considered the demographics. So Tina is something for everybody. We know people in Hawaii, they love their oldies station. I've got a great radio station to anchor behind that particular choice. And then we go straight into 6, which is fresh on Broadway currently. It's the story of Henry VIII's 6 wives. It's flashy, it's fun and exciting, and I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like it. And then we wanted to bring back a classic, which will attract a certain demographic and hopefully introduce to the next generation of Broadway season holders, and that is Chicago. So that, if you just asked me this year, that was a lot of work. And we've got them so excited, meaning LiveCo and Broadway. They are looking at bringing even better acts and shows next year. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. All right, last call for questions. Okay, if not, members, it is just shy of 12:30. Can we reconvene at 1:05? Is that okay? 1:15? 1:15. Any objections to reconvening 1:15? Okay, the meeting is recessed until 1:15, and then we'll pick up with the Department of Design and Construction, Environmental Services, and Customer Services. Thanks, everyone.